Hey everybody, Kyle Nedner here from the Indy Star, as you probably know if you're watching this already. But wanted to touch on quickly, kind of go through some topics here as quickly as possible. I got 10 topics. Wanted to kind of roll through, starting with the IHSAA transfer situation. As you may have read earlier this week, a bill was filed in the Indiana General Assembly by Corey Criswell out of the Newcastle area. Corey's been involved in athletics. He was athletic director, assistant athletic director at Newcastle. He's a former coach, so he's got some background in athletics. And this wasn't his bill to begin with, but he's kind of taken on leadership on it. The bill basically calls to remove language prohibiting certain students from enrolling into a school corporation primarily for athletic reasons. So basically, the language would sort of eliminate, the athletic motivation for a transfer, which has kind of always been the IHSA's stance on transfers. And under the current bylaws, if you're deemed to have limited eligibility, you're held out for a calendar year, 365 days of varsity athletics, so you could play JV basically at this point. Um, so the IHSA is they had one of their executive meetings today, one of their monthly meetings. I had some questions if there was a vote on that. There was not, from what I've gathered. I think that'll be coming in the next, maybe the probably further discussion the next meeting, and then potentially a vote at some point after that as far as what they're going to do. I know they had some discussion today about kind of the way forward on the transfer rule, and I think it'll be a bigger topic basically at next week's meeting, which is in February. So, that's still, I think what will happen here is the IHSA is going to end up changing their rule potentially to a one-time transfer. That's no secret. Paul Neidig's talked about that, the commissioner for the IHSA. This bill is basically to sort of hold them to that, I would say. And sort of a lot of people have asked, well, what's the point of this? Do we want it to be like the NCAA? Hopefully not. I mean, I think that's a fear certainly if you're against this rule. I'm sort of taking my own opinion out of it. I think there are some good things that could happen as far as making this a sort of a more black and white rule. Take some of the gray out of it, I would think, where kind of the question always is, well, why is one kid eligible and one kid not? It looks like sort of the similar situation. So doing this basically would allow kids a one-time transfer. That would be sort of a free transfer, so to speak. Now you'd still have, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but you'd still have some guardrails into that. So, there will still be some things in place that you just can't recruit kids basically. Although we know it goes on and it has for 100 years, I would say. So that's nothing new. It's just maybe more prevalent now. But so that's happening in the world of transfer news. No new news from the earlier story this week. That bill was filed. I don't know kind of where it goes from here exactly. I think the IHSA will eventually talk more at length about this and potentially have something to vote on here in the next couple months or so, potentially. So we'll see what happens with that. Number two, I don't want to take too long on all these. Marion County semifinals is Friday night at Southport, so this could be dated by the time you watch this potentially. But two really good matchups, I think, in the semifinals, and always one of the more fun nights of the season for me. I love the Marion County tournament every year. It's the talent is great. 16 teams, one single elimination. It doesn't get much better than that, and the level of talent is always through the roof. And especially for these semifinal games, you're going to get Lawrence North and Ben Davis playing. Two top 10 teams will be in the first game at 6 p.m. and then Pike and North Central. So you got four teams with just a ton of tradition and history and just two really good teams this year. Lawrence North is probably I would say a slight favorite over Ben Davis, probably the favorite to win the tournament. And then, Pike and North Central, both very talented teams. Pike was without Damon Howard the other night against Ron Colley. So I'm not, I know he's injured. He was their top scorer for the season so far. But still a very good team that Pike has. North Central obviously very good as well. 6-5 against 7-5. That'll be the second game of the night. But the first one should be great. 6 p.m. So get out to Southport. Number 3, talking about the Marion County tournament. I saw some, and this is just kind of a discussion online I saw from someone saying they ought to move this semifinal final night to, maybe move it around or play it at a host site or whatever. I would disagree with that. I get the point. I get the idea of that is to, make that maybe a gym that's not quite as big, or maybe a home site would maybe attract more fans potentially. So I look at my dog trying to find his resting spot here behind me. But yeah, so I get the idea of that. I think once you move a tournament to different sites, people maybe lose track then of where it's at each year. And hey, what's going on? I thought the county was at Southport, and you kind of lose that destination feel to it. Right now, everybody knows, and we've seen that there was a time when I was working maybe 10 or 12, 13 years ago where they had the championship games at one of the host sites. I remember going to Pike one year, and I think it was Park Tudor and Pike played each other. And then maybe another year was at it was at Warren Central, I think, the championship game. And I don't know, it was fine, but it didn't feel like the county tournament to me. I kind of like having it at Southport, even though a lot of times you end up with maybe 2 teams that aren't close to there. So I do get that part of it, but I would just say leave it there. I love Southport anyway. I hope it stays there. Number 4, I haven't written about this yet, but wanted to. I did talk to coaches on both sides. This is a football topic. Terry Walker has transferred from Lawrence Central to Hamilton Southeastern. Obviously, that's newsworthy because Terry, one of the better 2026 players. So he transferred that semester. He was playing basketball and has transferred to IHSAA. Where he's not playing basketball, but he is will play football in the fall, assuming everything goes through with the transfer and everything. So Walker, one of the better quarterbacks in the area. He threw for 1,467 yards last season, 17 touchdowns, and ran for 377 and 4 TDs. Has a pretty good list of offers already, and obviously would step into a role there that there would be a quarterback opening after Chandler graduated from last year's team. So looks like that would be obviously a very interesting transition for him. And I'm not sure what LC will end up with at quarterback. Obviously that leaves a void for them as well, but that's a big deal, and hopefully we'll have something about that here in the next couple of days in print as well, or in written word. But just wanted to touch on that. Terry Walker leaving to go to HSE, already has actually. So Chandler Weston, their quarterback last year, was a senior, and he had a good year too. Had over 1,500 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, ran for about almost 500 yards. So his stats pretty similar to what Walker did last year. So. Number 5. I had a question about Luke Ertel. Yeah, and just real quick, I mean, someone asked me just what I thought of him as a player. I had a chance to see Mount Vernon last week against Greenfield Central. They lost that game by 5 points, but they were without their second leading scorer, and then their third leading scorer only played about 3 minutes. Max Weiss had a concussion symptoms, had to leave the game, and Elijah Parra, the other guard, the shooting guard from Mount Vernon, was out sick last week. So they were without 2 of their better players against Greenfield Central, and still, we're in control at different points of that game. There, I think they were up at least by 9 or 10 there in the first half. And Greenfield came back. Very, very good team, obviously, with Braylon Mullins and the rest of their guys. Mikey Johnson had a really good game. But just to answer that question, I'm very high on Ertel. I really like him as a player. He's left-handed guard. He distributes the ball well. He's a good perimeter player, and also can drive to the hole and get shots for other people. I think he's going to be a great fit at Purdue. He's a guy who missed a lot of time last year. I think he played 6 games total, but off to a great start this year. 18.7 points, 7 rebounds, 3.9 assists, and all of his shooting numbers. He's over 50% from 53% from the field, and about 46% from three. So he really is playing well this season. Good to see he's back and healthy and having a good start to his year. But yeah, I mean, Matt Painter offers you. I think he knows what he's doing at this point, and I definitely having covered Luke's brother Mike Ertel. He's obviously had a great career in college and in high school as well. So kind of the same type of player in a lot of ways, and Luke may be even a better point, just pure point guard, I would say, and I think Michael would probably agree with that. But yeah, Purdue will get a good one eventually. Luke's only a junior, so he has another year left. Number 6, wrote about this a little bit today. Obviously, a touchy subject. Aaron Etherington passed away, or I shouldn't say touchy, but emotional subject. And I had a chance to cover Aaron when he was at Hamilton Southeastern. Saw him play at UIndy a couple of years ago when he was finishing out his career there. He ended up going to St. Francis also for a year, but Aaron Etherington, passed away earlier this week at age 25, and just feel for the family. Covered Austin, his older brother, and Alex, who they went to Hamilton Heights, and of course Austin went on to IU and then Butler, and Alex actually played at UIndy also. So just a tough situation. Was stunning to see that and hear that. I saw his father Brett posted that. I think it was 2 days ago, and so wrote a little bit about that today. But and had a chance to go back and look and kind of think back to when he was a senior, that 2019 year on the super team, and we would do our super team shoots at Brebeuf. Not every year, but a lot of those years we did them there, and that year we had a team picture. I think all the players were there that time. So a lot of times we'll do them where we bring them in and just do a maybe one shot and then kind of time it where they can leave, and we don't do a full group shot. But you just think back to the talent at that time, and it seems like every year, really. But man, we had quite a group there. Trace Jackson Davis. That was a 2018, I think 2018, going into 19 maybe, if I remember correctly. We had Armand Franklin, Dre Davis from LC, Jalen Wyndham, David Bell, DeJuan Jones, Isaiah Thompson, who was at Zionsville, Jesse Bingham, Jared Hankins, Cam Alford, John Michael Malloy. That was quite a group that year. That just reminded me of just how much talent we're lucky enough to cover. Simon Banks was in that group from Brebeuf. Jalen Johnson, who he played at Manual, but went on and played at Grambling State last year. They played Purdue in the first round of the tournament. So just thinking back to those memories. But yeah, just shout out and to Aaron's family. Obviously, they're going to be going through. I can't even imagine. You can't imagine. Something like that, with losing somebody at that age, and very sad, obviously. And St. Francis and UIndy, Tom Crean, they all put out statements. Just kind of reflecting on their thoughts on the family and Aaron, and so yeah, a really sad situation for Etherington and his family. Number 7, want to talk about fan attendance real quick. So this was posted on the one of the Facebook pages for Indiana high school basketball, and I thought it was interesting. It's a good question, I think, and someone had a question about or what could be done essentially to help attendance at high school basketball games. And I think we've seen, and I do agree, the crowds, I mean, some crowds are great, some aren't, and I think this time of year, sort of when you're going through the holidays and then you're going through the county tournaments, sometimes aren't, they're just sort of different games on the schedule where you don't get, great crowds, I would say. And the question, I guess, was like, what can we do, to reverse this problem, if there is a problem, and get some fresh ideas to get people back to come into games. And I think we'll end up, I think by the time we get to sectional and stuff like that, regional, and we'll have some really good crowds. I think even in the season, I've seen great crowds even, during the season on Friday nights and even Saturday nights, especially if you're at any of these Greenfield games. They've been really good crowd. Mount Vernon and Greenfield is phenomenal New Pal, Greenfield, phenomenal crowd. So it's not like we're going to games and gyms are empty, but there has been some where I've been at and I'm like, man, that's a not great. So I think one thing that really has to be done is that there has to be some work to get students to the games, and whatever goes into all that. Getting students. I mean, to me, that's sort of the lifeblood of your whole crowd is your student section. So, and I in that and the person who asked this is I mentioned this on Facebook, and that's your lifeblood of your program is getting the students there, and he kind of said, well, let's find a solution, and I don't know exactly other than just working to get them there. That's my solution is just get them, any way you can, get those students to the games, get them excited. Maybe they come to one and they want to keep coming back. And some of these schools have no problems with that. Obviously, they get a lot of students, and especially when it's a rivalry game, they're great student crowds. But to me, that's where it starts. And I know there's a lot of options out there for people's attention anymore. We're way past the point of like basketball, high school basketball being the only thing in town. That's not even that's far by the boards. But there are places where shoot, I'm lucky enough I've been able to cover some of these places at Brownstown Central when Jack Benner was playing. There's no seats to be had. Jennings County when they made their run, they was phenomenal. So Romeo Langford and those New Albany teams, and those are just a few. I mean, and again, this is not something that's I think pressing terrible issue or anything, but I think it just does. I mean, to me, the bottom line, you got to get your students going, get your students excited about what you're doing, and get them in the door and get them coming back. Number 8, wanted to talk just briefly on Ref Rob. I had a lot of feedback on the Rob Wan story. I've known Rob for a long time. They ran that story earlier this week, and it's just kind of funny to me. I guess not funny, but Rob is a guy who didn't really ask for any of this social media phenomenon, but has kind of become kind of a TikTok star, and I think it's really cool. I think it's a good thing for referees and for high school basketball and Rob just basically being himself, and kind of Cage McCorkle, who runs Hoop Edits, ended up shooting one of his games, and he kind of took off from there, and they're doing some really cool stuff. Cage is another story unto himself. He does a great job with the social media aspect and kind of building his business up. And there's a lot of I'm not just singling him out. There's a lot of people out there who do a great job with that. But I'm just saying, at age 19, to be doing what he's doing, he's only a sophomore at Wabash, so pretty cool. But yeah, Ref Rob, he's a one of a kind, and I always enjoy seeing him at games, and pretty cool that he's become this unlikely social media star. And who knows where it goes from here, but I think pretty neat deal for him. Going back to the transfer, number 9, I saw Jeremy Roush had posted this when I ran my story, and he kind of was asking questions, I think just kind of rhetorically, and he asked about, will there still be rules against undue influence? Yes, that will still be in place. If it's found to be recruiting / undue influence, those things are still illegal. If this change happens by the IHSAA, this rule change, those guardrails would still be in place. What effect will this have with players, coaches, and their travel teams? That's a great question. Again, probably a rhetorical question as far as, what happens, as far as, and it's already, most staffs probably have someone who's coaching AAU, and there's nothing against that. I mean, that's just smart by those coaches, I think, to do some coaching on the side and have connections with kids, and those are things that just happen organically a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, you still can't. The rule of past link will still be in place. So it's not like you can coach these kids and then bring them into your program. That would still be illegal under even if there is a one-time transfer rule that goes into place. Will schools invest in upgrading facilities to attract athletes? I think that's already happening, very much so, because you look around, all these schools in the area are are upgrading facilities, athletic facilities, and so yeah, that's going on for sure. And will coaches work to brand their programs? Again, I think that's the smart ones probably are already doing that to a large extent. You're not even really. It's not like you're recruiting kids that way. You're just trying to make your program attractive essentially. So. But yeah, just to touch on those things a little bit, and then 10th, I didn't mean for this to go on maybe even quite this long, but Ralph Lux, the Waldron student manager, passed away, and just this past week, and again, one of those guys that makes high school basketball what it is so special, especially in Indiana, where I'm lucky enough to cover it, and Ralph. Just kind of, I talked to Jared Lux, his nephew, on Sunday, and Ralph was honored at or not Sunday, Saturday. Ralph was honored Saturday night at the Shelby County tournament. They did a moment of silence for him. Then they had his viewing at Waldron High School in the gym on Sunday. So really cool that Waldron did that for him, and all these county schools honored him, and because he was known throughout the Shelby County and beyond. 67 years old. He was born with Down syndrome, but was asked by Steve Cox, the Waldron coach in 1990, to join the team as manager. And he obviously jumped all over it. He did it for 34 years. And, Jared talked about how he was getting ready at 4 o'clock after, to perform his duties for that night. He would have the basketballs ready. He would take charge of the warm-ups and jerseys, make sure they got to the laundry. So just really cool. And Jared, obviously, he's a 92 graduate who, he has a long history there at Waldron. He's helping coach now, but all-time leading scorer at Waldron. And, so that Lux name obviously goes a long way in that area of the state for sure. But, Ralph Lux, definitely one of a kind. There's a lot of programs that have people like him where, those are the type of people that really make high school basketball what it is. And, he talked about how, Ralph would, read the paper every Saturday morning and read him the scores and just very invested, even beyond Waldron, just very invested in high school basketball. And I love that type of stuff. I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. That's, sort of how I grew up, and have been about, in my life is like high school basketball always has been something I've just been really interested in. But Ralph, really cool guy, and awesome that Jared shared those stories with me, and I'm appreciative, not awesome that he is appreciative that he did that and shared Ralph's story a little bit more too. But Ralph Lux, 67, will be definitely missed. But again, just 10 things. Again, didn't want to go that long, but appreciate you joining me here, and we'll talk to you next time.